Happy New Year, everyone! Finally, that awful year is done, and 2021 is here. I've got a lot of things to look forward to in 2021, and I wish you the best year possible. Let's travel back in time to a year that every night was New Year's Eve and every party was hosted by the Funmeister himself. I'm Dane, and today we'll be telling the story of Pleasure Island in downtown Disney. The first thing that everyone needs to know about Pleasure Island is the backstory. Pleasure Island had an extensive backstory that is a connection to the Society of Explorers and Adventurers. If you don't know what the Society is, it is a storyline. It's a society that connects all the different Disney rides, like Jungle Cruise and Haunted Mansion in one of the overseas Disney parks. The backstory to Pleasure Island is Meriwether Pleasure, a sea adventurer, operates a company on Pleasure Island. Meriwether lived in the early 1900s and was a sailor. He was a sailor after all, so he went to sea one day and he was lost to sea, and his sons abandoned his business. Pleasure Island was rediscovered by Imagineers who refurbished the island into nightclubs and restaurants to tell the stories of adventurers from the past. Now let's get to the real history of Pleasure Island. Pleasure Island opened up in downtown Disney in 1989. Pleasure Island was littered with restaurants, shops, and nightclubs. Paradiso 37, Portobello Restaurant, Raglan Road were some of the restaurants that were there. I'm not gonna tell all of them because there's quite a lot. Curl, Fuego, Harley Davidson, Walrus Pit, Superstar Studios, Jessica's Navigation Supplies, DTTV were just some of the shops at PI, and again, I'm not going to say them all because there's a lot of them. The main thing that most people went to Pleasure Island for was the nightclubs. This is also where the fireworks were set off every night. 8 Tracks, Adventurers Club, BET Soundstage, the West End Stage, Mannequins Dance Palace, Comedy Warehouse were just some of the nightclubs. The Adventurers Club was the largest club on the island. It has a reason to be too. This had a connection to the backstory of Pleasure Island itself, and had a backstory of its own. The Adventurers Club originally was Meriwether's library that eventually turned into the meeting room for the Society of Explorers and Adventurers. 8 Tracks is one that my family remembers well. It was a 70s and 80s music dance club. If you know me, I love that kind of music, and my family likes that music as well. The Comedy Warehouse was a comedy improv club that often filled up for every single show. The BET Soundstage was an R&B/hip-hop club that featured live bands similar to its predecessor, the Neon Armadillo, that had live country music. The West End Stage also had live entertainment, unlike what we have at Disney Springs now, which everything is recorded even though people are up on the stage. I'm not going to get into that. I caught people lip-syncing at Disney Springs once. I'm sorry. The parties at Pleasure Island were pretty legendary, and the drunk people had some wild nights at Pleasure Island. And this is one of the reasons that Pleasure Island is remembered so fondly. Now, after Pleasure Island's closure, there are Facebook groups, Discord servers, even Twitter accounts devoted to just keeping the memory of Pleasure Island alive. And if you would like to go down the rabbit hole of seeing fans rant about the closures and talking about some memories of Pleasure Islands, there's some WDW Magic forums and Facebook groups that are very, very, very good to look at. Bring back some memories for sure. Every night was New Year's Eve at Pleasure Island, and not just because of the booze and parties. Pleasure Island had fireworks every night to celebrate the New Year's. This tradition lasted for 15 years before Disney decided to shutter the fireworks. The fireworks returned for one night before Pleasure Island as a whole closed forever. And yes, that was a night of celebration because the fireworks were back, but it was a depressing night because Pleasure Island was also closing. So, a little mix of both. In 2004, there was a big change, and the biggest change in Pleasure Island history. It was the drop of the entry fee. And this is what kind of killed Pleasure Island, because this allowed anyone in the island, meaning gangs, teenagers, criminals, and people that you wouldn't want around kids in Pleasure Island. In 2006, some renovations to Pleasure Island occurred. They dismantled the hub and West End stages. The West End stage became the bridge to Pleasure Island, and the hub stage became a viewing spot. To what? Not really much. It's just a viewing spot to the lake that they have everywhere else. Suddenly, the whole atmosphere of Pleasure Island changed from a celebratory, fun vibe to a dangerous, uncomfortable place. Since Pleasure Island was like this, now adults wouldn't bring their kids, and over a span of 2 years, Disney saw a significant drop in attendance to the island. In 2008, Disney announced that the clubs, shops, and some restaurants would close. The Orlando Sentinel wrote an article and quoted, "Right now we believe we've got a shortage of dining capacity and shopping capacity, so we'll be adding to those areas and we'll be looking at some specialized entertainment options also," said Downtown Disney Vice President Evan Lansbury. And we all know that's a lie, because Pleasure Island was made for shopping and entertainment options. So how do you have a shortage of them? That doesn't make any sense. It's just because they don't want the gangs there. That's all it is. The last day of operation was September 27, 2008. Pleasure Island fans waited a whole day to get onto the island to make sure they would get in. Pleasure Island was at full capacity that night, and all clubs were filled. Fans have very fond memories of the last night. The dance floors were packed, and partiers danced like there was no tomorrow. Mannequins was kind of the hub for the final night. It got packed, and when I asked people about the final night, Mannequins came up a lot, so a lot of people were at Mannequins. The fireworks were brought back one last time, and in Mannequins, Everybody's Free by Rosala was played, and I'm not going to play that song here because it is copyrighted. That was the final song played in Mannequins. They would normally close at 2 a.m. That night, they closed at 4 a.m. And just like that, Pleasure Island had closed. The next day, signs, logos were being removed. 2 days later, in 2010, whole buildings would start being demolished. Motion, Rock and Roll Beat Club, Adventures Club, BET Soundstage were all demolished. Pleasure Island would technically still be open, but it was just the name that was still there because the clubs were closed and Pleasure Island was the club, so the name was supposed to be replaced with Hyperion Wharf, but Disney decided not to use that name and changed it to The Landing. It officially opened in 2015 and changed Downtown Disney as a whole because its name changed to Disney Springs. Pleasure Island's fate was destined, if you can say that, destined for failure. The clubs and music and shopping and restaurants were not updated or changed at all throughout the whole 10-year Pleasure Island, throughout the whole 20 years or so that it was there. Once they changed a couple of things in 2004 to 2006, it wasn't the same place. It was dangerous, not a lot of people wanted to go there. Yet fans still have fond memories of this place, and yes, it still should be preserved in a way. Disney did not do a great job of maintaining awesome and cool and what everybody loved about Pleasure Island. If you were one of those partiers that partied long into the night at Pleasure Island, let me know down in the comments below, and let me know some of your memories from Pleasure Island. And if you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe. It would mean a lot if you considered subscribing. And with that, I'll see you in the next one. Have a happy new year and a magical day, everyone.